In the time, before time, the Great Spirit... You know what? You know the rest of this. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the 2001 Toa Mata. We're going to build them, and then we're going to give them a review and a score. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Christian from All Out Brick. If you're a first-time viewer, welcome to our channel, and if you've seen us before, then welcome back. Today, we'll be taking a look at the 2001 Bionicle Toa Mata. These sets mark the first line release of the Bionicle theme nearly 2 decades ago in 2001. This first wave of Bionicle was just what the LEGO group needed during tough times, and in part, these Toa actually helped to save the company. The actual lore behind the Toa is that on the mysterious island of Motunui, 6 canisters arrived on land and sea, each carrying pieces. These pieces, when fused together, allowed tissue to grow and brought life to the now Toa Mata. However, due to the makeup of their canisters, they unfortunately lost all of their respective memories. This is highlighted in the first of the Bionicle novels about Motunui. Each of the 6 Toa had a specific elemental power within them. There's Tahu, the Toa of fire, Gali, the Toa of water, Kopaka, the Toa of ice, Lewa, the Toa of air, Pohatu, the Toa of stone, and Onua, the Toa of earth. Their main purpose in the initial launch was to locate all of their great Kanohi masks, which would grant them a golden mask, giving them the power of all 6 of the Toa Kanohi. Jumping right into the packaging, we can see that the Toa all come in the canisters mimicking the ones that they arrived in on the shores of Motunui. Each canister is gray with a color top and is wrapped in a rotatable sleeve to line up with the proper Toa. If you rotate the sleeve, you can see it showing different displays on the canister beneath it with various mask codes. Inside, we receive a bundle of pieces along with the instructions, which are naturally rolled up because of the shape of the canister, and some advertisement material from 2001. All 6 of the Toa follow the same pattern, so no need to go through each of them at once. Instead, we're just going to build them all together. Let's get started. Alright, here we are, our finished Toa Mata. They took about 30 minutes to build, about 5 minutes to Toa, and looking at them individually, they all have a pretty cool play features associated with all of them. They have these limbs that you can pose around, and there's friction that keeps them up where you pose them with the arms and the legs. And the main feature of the Toa is their back gear. You're able to rotate it, and this allows you to perform a function with the Toa swinging their arms for all 5 of the Toa except for Pohatu. Pohatu, his torso is upside down. It's built with the same function, but when you turn the gear, it makes him swing his leg, and he's able to kick this Koli ball that he comes with. So there's some pretty cool play features with him. There's definitely like some playability. You can battle or whatever you want with the Toa, and Pohatu's able to kick his ball. I guess you could have like a little soccer game with like 6 different Pohatus, but yeah, that's kind of all the playability with them. There's not a whole lot of other functions built in, and looking at them individually, comparing to each other, they all have their own distinct color set. Their mask matches their torso and their feet, and their limbs are kind of a lighter shade of that base color, with the exception of maybe Pohatu. He's got tan instead of brown, but light brown would probably be close to a tan. Looking at their masks, this is another thing that's different between all 6 of the Toa besides their color, is that they all have a different mask mold, which gives them different elemental powers. Now, the goal of the Toa was to go find the other masks. Kopaka, for example, would be looking for all of the masks in white, so say he was looking for a white version of Tahu's mask, which is a Hau, he would find that, and then that would grant him the same elemental powers that the Hau gives Tahu. And once they were able to collect all 6 of their masks, they were able to get a golden mask, and this golden mask contains all 6 of the powers wrapped in one, and they're the great Kanohi masks that the Toa were able to try to find, and that was what they were looking for in order to battle the Makuta, which is the bad guy in the whole Bionicle universe. Aside from that, all of the builds are pretty much the same, except for Pohatu. There's a little bit of a difference there. Onua has a little bit of a different neck than all of the other Toa, but aside from that, they're pretty much the same. If you handed me at like the 5th or 6th Toa, if you just showed me a picture of them, I could have built them without the instructions. They followed the same pattern, which I understand they're all supposed to be coming from the same place in their canisters, so it makes sense that they're all together thematically. But in terms of building, it did kind of get a little bit dry towards that last Toa, but they all had like one or two things that was slightly different with each other, so that kind of balanced that out, and there was definitely one thing in each build that was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Overall, looking at each individual model, I think they're really cool. And for the time of 2001, they definitely were able to bring new life to LEGO. It's not something that they've kind of built before. There were some other Technic things that LEGO was able to produce before 2001, but these were able to kind of set themselves apart in that they created their own characters and their own theme. And you can definitely see that coming through. I mean, just looking at them, they got a very interesting look, all 6 of these Toa. Like almost all Bionicle sets, the Toa Mata had combination models. In this case, they were called the Toa Kaita. Each of the Toa's instructions contained a portion of the instructions to their combination models. What we're going to do now is disassemble all 6 of these Toa and build their combinations. Here we go. As you can see, I just finished building the 2 Toa Kaita models, Weiruha and Akamai. When the Toa reached Kinu Nui, the center of Mata Nui, they disassembled and came together as these 2 forms to take on some of the Makuda's greatest guardians, the Manas. A lot of information and cutscenes about these models can be found by playing the Mata Nui online game 1. As for the models themselves, they're definitely giving off the impression of beefed up Toa. They have huge legs. In the case of Weiruha, he has 2 weapons instead of 1, which Kamai has. He only has 1 weapon. But they definitely give off this interpretation. They're pretty big too. They're probably about close to exactly twice the size of the original Toa, so they're definitely pretty big. And the instructions were pretty easy to follow. I think in terms of the features, the best part about these 2 models is that they included something that I'm surprised that the original Toa didn't have, which is neck articulation. You can move the neck in 360 degrees on a couple different axes, and you can just position it like an actual neck, whereas the regular Toa, you can't even rotate it at all. I'm a bit surprised that they figured out how to make this work for these models, but didn't include it for the original Toa. So that's a little disappointing for the original models, but for the combination model, that's pretty awesome that they managed to figure that out. Aside from that, the features are pretty much the same as the regular Toa, except for the fact that their arms can now move independently and their legs can move on both models as well. As we saw with the original Toa, Pohatu was the only one able to move his legs. However, both of these Toa have the ability to move both legs at once as if they were walking. They kind of did it the same way that the torsos are built for Gali and Onoa, where they're able to swing both arms at once, except they're these giant legs. With the added friction because of the weight of the legs themselves, it kind of gives them this colossal lethargic feel when they're just kind of stomping across. They're not super easy to rotate. Now, looking at the arms, they're not as posable as the irregular Toa because of the way they're connected to the axles. However, they do include some beefed up weapons, especially in this case. As I said before, he has 2 swords instead of 1. Him, on the other hand, Akamai, he's looking a little weak. I mean, if you put these 2 in a battle, Weiruha's definitely coming out on top. This guy's got nothing. I mean, look, his 1 arm is just 2 Toa heads. I mean, that's kind of disappointing, but you were limited by the parts that they had, whereas like he's at least got a shield. I mean, it's still the same size as Kopaka's shield, so it's pretty tiny in retrospect to the size of him. Like, what's he going to do? Like, block like half of his chest? But still, at least he has a shield. He has nothing. Like, he just has 2, which is kind of like twisted. He has 2 Toa heads as his fingers. That's a little bizarre, but he still just has Tahu's fire sword. I mean, yeah, like he's got Pohatu's like little like knobs on his feet. Like, cool. But yeah, I think this one's definitely a little more heavy duty, and he's got a cool design. He's got some claws on his chest, but if you're looking at the 2, I think Weiruha is definitely the better model out of these 2. Granted, they're very similar. They're pretty much identical builds in terms of like the core of them. The arms are a little different. The legs are the same except for the colors, and then the bottoms of Akamai's feet have these little inserts that were on Pohatu's feet. Weiruha doesn't have those. But aside from that, the legs are essentially the exact same. Another thing that's different is that Akamai has these shoulder pads, and they're kind of prohibitive to moving the arms around. There's not a whole lot of friction in the arms themselves because of the sockets, so you really can't twist them all that well. It's cool in design, and it works a lot better for the sword, but it just, as you can see, it's kind of just flopping around. It's not there's not a whole lot of sturdiness there, whereas Weiruha, he's got a full-fledged, like, he's ready to go. But Kamae is able to rotate his arms freely at the shoulder joint, whereas Weiruha is a little bit constricted there, actually a lot of bit constricted there because of how they're attached to the axles. So there's pros and cons to each model, but when you're looking at the two, they're both pretty good models. Definitely this one's better. I'm just glad that they include the neck articulation that they didn't include in the Toa. So all in all, pretty good combination models, and they use just about all the pieces from the original Toa. So that's pretty much all I got for the models. I mean, the Toa Mata, they're pretty good sets. The prices now, they're really, really high if you're going new. It's better off to buy used sets if you're just looking to have a completion. If you're more of a collector, then you're going to be spending a lot to get these sets new with their canisters. I mean, Tahoe's going for like $190 right now in Bricklink just for that one. They're very expensive compared to their $8 release point, but used, they're very affordable, especially if you're just buying them without the container instructions or online and everything. So that's kind of up to you if you're buying these sets, how you want to get them. Now, as for a score, give them a 7.8. 7.8, pretty good, got some flaws. The combination models definitely addressed some of those flaws with the articulated neck, but they're pretty good. They laid a foundation for a theme that lasted about a decade. So that's your review. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, be sure to give it a nice thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel if you want to be the first to see all of our future content. Also, check us out on our website and our Facebook and our Instagram pages. Until next time, stay bricking.